So folks, suppose I wanted to make it, so right now, what is the population size right now? Can anyone tell me? Okay, where is that set? Where would I go in the model? This is one of the key skills you got to develop with respect to any logical model, for better or for worse. In some ways, I think it's for worse. Where do I need to go in this wide sort of textured model to find population size? Okay, and where does that live in the model? It's in Maine, so it's in that sort of broader broader situation for Maine. And so here it is. It's in this this population here, and there we find it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so here's, riddle me this. Suppose I wanted to make it so the population size is not hard-coded as 100, but it's instead set in a flexible way by a parameter. How would I do that? Could I do that? Okay. Where would that parameter have to be? Okay, it's in Maine. Where were our parameters previously? Like for income and sex, where were they located? Those were in person. And why were they in person? Because they were properties of a person, right? And they were dictated by whatever created the person, or sort of, took care of managing that person, which was the what? What was it that took care of specifying those parameters? What is it that maintains that population of persons? It's the population within Maine, this so-called embedded object, this thing right here. So that's what specified our parameters at the person level. So if we wanted to have a parameter for population size, you said it right earlier, where would that parameter have to live? It would have to live in Maine. Okay. And so let's go add a parameter for population size, population size. How do I add that parameter? I drag it in from the palette here into Maine, right? And maybe I'll provide a default value of 100 if no one explicitly specifies things, so sort of ease people's life. Give it a default if no one overrides it. Okay, so I've added a parameter for population size. Now, who is it that's going to be responsible for setting this parameter, for dictating the value of this parameter in Maine? If it was the population that took care of dictating it for the person, who's going to dictate it for Maine? Who's responsible for starting Maine up? Who's responsible for creating that Maine? Sorry? It's sort of the model, but who's responsible for actually bringing a Maine into existence? How do we start a model? Okay, it's simulation. So it's actually the experiment, the scenario, in other words, conceptually, but the experiment and AnyLogic's terminology that brings Maine into existence. This is going to be very important, ladies and gentlemen, in a few days, because we're going to see scenarios, we're going to see experiments that bring one instance of Maine into existence and then get rid of it and then bring another in to run so-called Monte Carlo ensembles, to run it again and again and again. We're going to see it to run optimizations. We're going to see it to run sensitivity analyses. The experiment is responsible for bringing Maine into existence, for running it through its life course, for salvaging any information for it, and tossing it away. And here, ladies and gentlemen, it is the experiment that needs to specify the parameter in Maine. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us now go. Having added that population size parameter to Maine, let us now go to the simulation and let us go look. And what lies before us, ladies and gentlemen? There's a parameter. It says, what does it say there? It's the parameter that's shown is population size. Now we have the experiment being able to say the population size. So, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's 100. So let's go run it and just remember what it looks like. Okay? So here we're running it, and that's what it looks like. Now let's create, ladies and gentlemen, how would we create an experiment with a larger population? So suppose I want to create an experiment with a larger population, a new experiment. I want to keep that one, but I want to use one with a large population. Tell me how to do it. Could someone tell me? How would I create an experiment with a larger population? Okay. Okay, but how do I want a new scenario? How do I create a new scenario that would have a, I don't want to get rid of this one or okay, I can do new experiment, or I can do copy of the experiment. Any number of those things is fine. Let's do a new experiment for variety. So, right, how do I do it? How do I add a new experiment? Okay, yeah, you could do file new. Good, good. File new, and then experiment. Okay, and we'll call it large population. And this can be a normal simulation. We'll get into the later ones before, and then we'll say finish. Okay, fine. There'll be a large population. Okay, so I've just created this experiment. How do I set its population size? Anyone tell me? Yeah, just down here, population size, right? Or we can go to parameters. There's actually, as was noted over here, there's actually a tab called parameters. We could also put it there. So let's make its population 1,000. Is that okay? Is that okay, folks? Okay, who needs TA help? TA help? Help? Who needs help from a TA? Okay, so we just did large population. Let's run this. What should we expect to see? Oh. Wait a minute. Oh, man. What's going on? Why didn't I see a large population there? Folks, there's one more thing we have to do. We added a parameter called population size. We set it so large population would have a large value, but what haven't we done yet? Yes? Yeah, exactly. So folks, never did we say the population depended on the population size. So that's the one thing we left out. In other words, if we went to main and you clicked on population, you'll find that it says initial number of objects. You have to say population size here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this will teach you an important lesson. First of all, you got to be observant and sleuth in as to, okay, where might the problem be? Sarah did that very quickly here. Sort of where this issue is. But the second thing is, folks, you suddenly perhaps will start to realize that all of these different boxes here exposed at any logic, that you think you're supposed to put a value into, like 100 or 20 for this population. You could put an arbitrary expression. You could have it be a calculation. You could have it be a draw from a probability distribution. You could have it be a call off to some function that reads values from, you know, weather stations at 22 points around the province and takes their average or whatever and uses that to fill in the value here. So the point is, this population size, what am I doing? This is just a reference to what? So again, where did I go? I went to the experiment. I went to population here, and for the initial number of objects, I say population size. What is this population size? What is that referring to? That word, what does it refer to? It's this parameter. And that was the missing link we had. We needed that way, as Sarah observed, of linking the two. Yes?
I have a question about what's the difference between 100 persons and population size?
Well, here, it depends what the value of population size is. In other words, if we're running this in a situation where population size is size 100, they're the same exactly. But population size here may be other values. For large population, what's the value of population size?
Well, we assign 1,000.
1,000. So when that runs, this will be 1,000, and so it'll create 1,000 size population. When this runs, the population size was actually 100, so it would just be 100 there. It would just be like it was before. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's run now the large population, ladies and gentlemen. And now we have a population of size 1,000. Do you see that? Do you see that? Okay, who needs a TA? TAs are ready are pleased to serve. TAs are, okay. Okay, okay, so who else needs a TA? Okay, okay, so what we've seen here, ladies and gentlemen,